Thank you, Tom. Just wanted to thank Pangea, wanted to thank Chronicles as well for putting this event together. I have to say that Mike and I are the last man standing between you and a glass of champagne, so I guess we'll try to be quick. And one more thing I think I wanted to say before starting is there's probably two constant things in this industry right now is me having no hair for many years and Mitch Shannon's ponytail. So, Mitch, you're the man. So, I guess I wanted to walk you through this event that happened a few years ago with one of our products, Adderall XR, which is probably still at this time the only case of a product's NOC being suspended in Canada and reintroduced the same year. So I guess because this is rapid fire, I will go relatively fast. I'll try to state the facts, some background information so that you can take some notes home as well as the outcome that is already implied in the title of the presentation. So in summary, after being marketed for about a year in the Canadian market, Adderall XR, which is a product indicated for the treatment of ADHD in children 6 and over, ADHD being attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, the NOC was suspended by Health Canada on February 9, 2005. And about 6 months later, after a review involving independent experts, following a process that was vaguely described in the Food and Drug Act, Adderall XR's NOC was reinstated. So obviously I don't have a lot of time to share with you some of the challenges that we had to go through because that was a very abrupt decision by Health Canada at the time, and I can't tell you how much impact this had on our company. Shire being a relatively small company at the time, we had just established offices in Canada in 1999, so we were a fairly new, young and small operation. And the product was also available in the US. Had been available as Adderall since 1996 and as Adderall XR since 2002. The US being the only other market where the product was available, so it did have a lot of impact on our US operations. Also implied that the product's promotion had to be stopped overnight, and I can't tell you enough about the impact it had on patients and physicians. Patients having to be taken off medication, and this is a neurological disorder that is treated chronically, especially during school year for patients, and this had a huge impact, obviously, on patients and their treating physicians. Internally, obviously, being a small company, we had to redeploy our effort toward an alternate product, and there were other actions that we had to take because at the time, we didn't know. I mean, this was a process that was never used in Canada. We didn't know what we were embarking into, and basically, we didn't know also how long this process would take. So, in retrospect, 6 months seems to be short, but when you look at it and you don't know what you're getting into, you know, we just didn't know if the product would ever make it back to the market. So as I mentioned, it was approved about a year before. The immediate release formulation of Adderall was never made available in Canada because the XR formulation had both the immediate and the extended release formulation. The US package insert for Adderall XR was revised in August 2004 based on post-marketing adverse reactions reporting of sudden death and serious cardiovascular events that happened when the patients were either on immediate release or extended release Adderall. And there were warnings added on the PI which relates to sudden death related to drug misuse, abuse, and pre-existing structural cardiac abnormalities in order to add that caution to the product label. Now, on the review of the same proposed labeling changes and supporting evidence, Health Canada decided to suspend the NOC for the product in early 2005. A reason for suspension from Health Canada was that there were 20 cases associated with the drug's use of sudden death and 12 cases of stroke. That the product was associated with risk of these events happening, that the preliminary analysis also showed that there was signal for sudden cardiac death and stroke to be higher with Adderall than other stimulants. That also the reporting rates seem to be at or above background rate for sudden cardiac death in that population, and that finally the risk could not be managed through label changes. So we had to make a choice, and I have to tell you that that was probably the toughest choice we had to make as a leadership management level at Shire. We had to either accept to voluntarily withdraw the product or use a process, as I said before, that was never used in the Food and Drug Act, which was this appeal process. That is a part of your package if you look at the end in the additional slides that I left you. And this process was never used in 30 years and basically involved appealing the decision and the Health Canada's appointing a new drug committee to review the situation and make recommendation to the minister. Now, it's, as I mentioned, an independent 3-membered new drug committee that is appointed. The manufacturer appoints one expert, Health Canada appointed the other, and then the two agreed to appoint the chair of the committee. And again, there was no guidelines process or timelines involved with this process. So month number one, after the event happened, we asked and received the reasons for the suspension. We established a process and timelines with Health Canada as far as going through the NDC process. And the members were nominated. So we appointed our member. Health Canada did the same thing, and the third member was appointed, and those were a pediatric cardiologist, a specialist in pediatric development and behavioral problems, and a pharmacoepidemiologist, which we believe through those 3 specialties could address the situation. So month number 2, the packages were prepared for the NDC. So we did our preparation. Health Canada did the same thing. Then, in addition to the material, we were asked to do a comprehensive review of background rate for sudden cardiac death and for stroke in general age-matched populations. And also, other manufacturers of psychostimulants were asked to provide data with regards to comparative rates of reporting between their products and Adderall. If we go then through month 4 or 5, the submission was made. There were rebuttals prepared from both sides, a bit like a debate we witnessed earlier this morning. And then there were questions from and answers to the NDC members in the process. And the presentations were made by experts to that committee. And month number 6, the NDC recommendations came about, which suggested the reinstatement conditions, and it was obviously Health Canada's final decision to be made as far as reissuing NOC or not. And that also, therefore, we needed to start preparing for a press release and a Dear Healthcare Professional communication. So the conclusion of Health Canada and NDC reassessments were that the reporting rate for sudden death didn't seem to be higher with Adderall or Adderall XR versus the unexposed population. That there was insufficient evidence to support Health Canada's concern about the increased risk associated with the product, that theoretically there is a pharmacological potential for all ADHD drug stimulants to increase the risk of sudden cardiac death, and that the NOC for Adderall XR should be reinstated immediately, concurring to labeling changes that were initially proposed by Shire. So the recommendation came about around the end of August 2005, immediate reinstatement of NOC, and the conditions were that a letter be sent to all healthcare professionals, and that the CME would be sponsored by Shire in order to make sure around the profile and predictors of sudden cardiac death related to general population in this children and adolescent population. And the NOC, as I said, was reinstated on August 26, 2005. So thank you. I think there's a few questions that I wanted to ask the audience just to make sure you listen. So first question is, Adderall XR is being marketed in 20 countries around the world. True or false? So you were right, it's true. See, actually, it's marketed only in the US, so the answer is false. So you didn't listen correctly. Second question. How often was an appeal launched to Health Canada to review suspension of NOC? Once a year, happened 5 times in the last 10 years, was never used in 30 years. Adderall XR was the first case. All right, very good, thank you. And the last question. Once the appeal was launched, who was reviewing the dossier? Was it a Senate committee? Was it the New Drug Committee formed of 3 independent experts or Health Canada? All right, so yes, we're ready for champagne. But before that, I'd like to pass the mic to Mike Tremblay, actually, President of Astellas Pharma Canada. Thank you.